Greetings, it's Iain from RTO here. Just going to explain Friday. I don't know how I got through Friday. I didn't sleep well. My nose, I got pressure here. That's sort of pressure. When it was humidity, I tend to get a lot of pressure around the top of my nose. And I couldn't sleep, so I got up and recorded them at 5:30 in the morning. Yes, that's what time I recorded on Friday. Finished everything, got everything edited, and then the nose started bleeding, and I was getting a bit concerned because it wouldn't stop bleeding. It finally stopped bleeding. My mate was a mess, I was a mess, so I just decided that's it, nothing, I'm doing nothing today. And I didn't do anything Saturday, not even a needle drop Saturday. And I felt a lot better yesterday, so I did a bit of housework on the channel, and I'm back on fine form. Hope it doesn't happen again. It's horrible. Anyway, we're going to kick off this week with part 6 of the Rod Stewart story. Now, we've reached the 1990s now. After a mixed bag of the 80s, he came back really strong in the 90s. 3 albums in the 90s. One cover album and 2 of his normal sort of albums. So I don't mind these albums from the 90s because there's only 3. So we'll kick off with at number 3. This was the first one that he released in the 1990s, and it came out in 1991, and it is called Vagabond Heart. Lots of people playing on here. The list was endless, so I'm not going through it. So the first track on here was quite a bit of a hit for him, called The Rhythm of My Heart. It was a very popular song. It's got this real Celtic feel to it with the horns, and it's produced, I think, by Trevor Horn. So it's a really good track. I don't mind that one. Second track on this one is called Rebel Heart. Okay, the drums are a little bit still overproduced, but it's a good rocker. Like this track, one of my favourites on the album. Then we have Broken Arrow, which is okay. It's not my favourite track on here, but it's okay. Okay, up next, he does a cover of It Takes Two, originally recorded in '65 by Marvin Gaye and Kim Weston, and it's It Takes Two. But joining Rod on here is the legendary Miss Tina Turner. It's a great version of this song. Big hitter for them as well. Really catchy song. Brilliant stuff. Then we have When a Man's in Love. Seems a little bit of a 80s throwback here. It's okay. It's got a lot of that 80s feel to it. Up next, we have a cover of a Stylistics song. Now, I've never was a big fan of the Stylistics, and I'm not a very big fan of this song, You Are Everything. It's a good vocal from Rob, but I just don't like that song. Up next, the Motown song. Second favourite track on here. It's Rod and his backing band, The Temptations. You can't go wrong. I think this is a song that can relate to any sort of thing. Bring over your own Motown records and those listening to them. You can do it with any genre. You know, we used to do it as kids with heavy metal. Pal around someone else with your collection and you just sit there and play it. Yeah, it's a good track. A lot of us can relate to that song. But my favourite track on here is a track called Go Out Dancing. It's just a good old-fashioned Rod rocker. Some great guitar on this. That's a really good vocal from Rod as well. One of my favourite tracks from the 90s. No Holding Back. It would be a good track if it didn't have cheesy keyboards in it. Then he does a Van Morrison song, Have I Told You Lately. He does a really good version of this. It's a good song. I prefer the original, but I think Rod does a good version of it. Moment of Glory, another good rocker, some sax on this. Pretty cool track. If Only, a nice ballad. I really like this ballad. It's a good vocal from Rod as well. And that was the last track. Good album. Still got a little bit of the 80s overthrow on it. But it's a pleasant album. I do play it a lot. I did have this on CD, and I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 7 out of 10. Okay, coming at number 2. Now, this is a bit unusual for a compilation to be not at the bottom, and it was the third release of the decade. It came out in 1998, and it's called When We Were the New Boys. It's covers by bands, some newer bands, and a few originals sung in, and some old Faces songs as well thrown into the mix. One of the When We Were the New Boys is a tribute to the song's co-author, Ronnie Lane, who had died in 1997. So the first track on here is an Oasis track, Cigarettes and Alcohol, and I think he does it justice. It's a really good version. I really like it. Then there's Ooh La La, which of course is a Faces track, and they've just cleaned it up a little bit. It's still good. I do like that. And then we have Rocks from Primal Scream. Now, I love this track anyway, by Primal Scream, but I do like this. This is my favourite cover on this album. He does an absolutely brilliant version of it. Then he does a track by a band called Superstar, and the title track Superstar off the thing. It's a great version of the song. I think this is a better version actually than the original. Then we have Sacred Heart, which is a song, Secret Heart, sorry, which is a song by Ron Sexsmith. This came out around about 95 originally, and Rod jumped on it and did a really good version of it. Then we get a Graham Parker track, and it's a great track called Hotel Chambermaid. I like Graham's version, and I think Rod's is good. I think Rod's is a little bit more beefier. Then we have a Nick Lowe song, Shelley My Love. Nick Lowe's is the more of an acoustic version. This has got a little bit more to it. I think both songs are pretty good. Then we have When We Were Boys, reflections about everything, you know, his career and who he's played with. Really good little song. Then we have, now this is the strangest cover on this album. It's Weak by Skunk and Nancy. It's not as good, you cannot sing like Deborah Dyer, but he does a very, very good version of it. It's really good. Then we have a song, Mike Scott, off one of his solo albums, but of course Mike Scott is known for being the leader of the Waterboys, and it's a great version of What Do You Want Me to Do. I like both songs actually. I think Rod does a great cover of it. And that was the last one. There's some cracking covers on here. The Oasis Trip and Primal Scheme are probably the best ones. And I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 7.5. But the number one album of the 90s, I think, from Rod, and I think Lee thinks this as well, this is the second release from 1995, A Spanner in the Works. Lots of people on here. Now the first track is my favourite track on here. It's co-written by Chris Rea and Trevor Horn, A Windy Town. There's some mandolin in it. It's going back to them roots of the early 70s Rod, and I think it's great. It's an absolutely brilliant track. Really enjoy that one. Then we have the Downtown Lights. Very pleasant track. Nice melody, really good. Then we have Leave Virginia Alone. Now this is co-written by James Newton and Tom Petty. Good, you can tell it's sort of Tom Petty's involved. It's got that flavour of a Tom Petty song. It's one of my favourites on the album, and I think it's really good. Up next is a Bob Dylan number, Sweetheart Like You. He does one of the songs off Bob Dylan's Infidels album, and he does a really good version. Rod's always done a really good version of one of Bob's songs. Then we have this, some nice guitar on here, really pleasant track. Lady Luck comes next. Really sounds like the 70s songs, 70s Rod here. Really is a strong track. Great vocal from Rod. You're a Star. One of the co-writers of this is Frankie Miller. Another great song. Like this one a lot. Tell it's got sort of Frankie Miller sort of input. Then my second favourite track on here is called Muddy, Sam and Otis. It's a great sort of tribute to Muddy Waters, Sam Cooke and Otis Redding. Rod's words are, you know, sings these well, and it's quite a passionate thing, you know, telling about how much that they influenced him. Hang On St. Christopher, which is a Tom Waits cover, is a brilliant song. It's a great version. Again, they've got very similar voices. They've both got these gravelly voices. I mean, Tom's is much lower, but it's great. Then we have a track called Delicious, co-wrote with Andy Taylor of Duran Duran, Robin LeMessurier as well, and it's a great track. I don't know if this was left over from one of the 80s albums, but it's a great rocker. The guitar work from Andy and Robin is great. I do like that track. Then we have Smooth Me, a cracking version of the Sam Cooke track. Really good. Purple Heather, which is it's a traditional Scottish song, and its other name is Wild Mountain Time, but it's more known as Purple Heather. Goes back to the 1700s. It's a really nice tune, and I think they do a good version of it, because I've heard many a version of this. As I said, he didn't put out a bad album in the 90s, but this is one of them albums that he's gone right back using sort of the 70s feel to it. It's a really good album. And I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 8 out of 10. Okay, there we go. Next week, we have the 2000... I think it's the 2010 to present, so it's everything that he's done from 2010 to the present, so that'll be the final part. Okay, coming up next we have got A Perfect Side, and this was a viewer's request. Now I think this is Pulsar. This is sort of a Pulsar album, and it's the Strawbs and Hero and Heroine, one of my favourite albums by the Strawbs. So that's coming up next. So bye for now.